we should be live.
Yeah, you are live.
Yes. One moment, I am having a aneurysm. Okay, there we go. That was not what I meant to do. Okay. Okay, there we go. And this is now the 4th episode of Behind the Veil. This time we have Garruk, and is there anything that you would like to say beforehand? Shout out anything or anything like that?
No, not particularly. I'm in a couple projects right now, including Gambit, and then I am on a stream under a channel called Is Friday, where we stream Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Just D&D stuff, nothing crazy.
Nice. Well, if it's all the same to you, let's go ahead and hop into the questions, eh?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. What's something unique about your character you think people might not know?
It's never come up, and I put it in my character sheet when I first created Garruk, that he has an allergic reaction to cats. Does not like cats. So I think Gambit's completely overlooked that and has, I think, dropped the ball on really creating a moment. Since we are in the Stone Age, and there should be saber-toothed cats, so maybe he'll watch this and send some our way next time.
Yeah, the only one we've seen so far is the one that the Navali fought, which is a bit odd, but also makes sense, I guess, because we haven't spent that much time out in the wilderness, but...
Yeah, I think the only other feline that has been featured in the campaign are the Displacer Beasts in the Extending Octave. That was it.
Well, if it's all the same to you, let's go ahead and hop over to the next one. Is there anything your character does while not in combat, such as during traveling?
I've mentioned it a couple times, but Garruk is a wood carver. He just, kind of growing up, he found wood carving to be sort of a comfort when he didn't really have anything else to do or anybody to hang out with. So he constantly is taking out a little whittling knife and making little stuff here and there, but usually he just abandons his creations along the road.
Oh, sorry, I had a technical difficulty apparently. Do I sound better now? Video.
Yeah, I thought you sounded fine before.
Well, Discord doesn't, for some reason, I can't figure out how to make... Okay, I can't figure out how to make OBS take my Discord audio, so I have to set it up separately in OBS, which is dumb.
You should be able to set it to your computer audio, and then just have your output device as your computer desktop, and then just capture desktop audio. And then as long as you're not playing music or anything else, it'll capture your voice and Discord at the same time.
Alright, I'll have to try that next time. Yeah. But if you're satisfied with that answer, sorry, that sounded like I was saying that it was shit. If you feel that you've answered that question, we can move on to the next one. Okay. What was the first draft of your character?
First draft of Garruk was a half-orc who was found and raised by a harmony guard and trained in the art of fighting just for survival because, being a half-orc in an entirely human society is not easy. And originally I wanted to actually play Garruk as a fighter and be a little bit more charismatic and leading in terms of his stats and stuff, but maybe go more towards charisma and be more of like an inspiring leader. And I wanted to actually bring a little bit more highlight to the orcs and their plight and their lore and use Garruk as that. But we ended up going with a little bit more of a different concept, obviously. Barbarian, raised by a priest sort of thing. But I think all in all, it turned out really well, and I think that some aspects of my original character plan have come to light and been able to be utilized in my main concept.
So the idea of Gabriel being your father, that wasn't something that originally was the case?
No, I actually just wanted to have an NPC family, just like have one harmony guard. But when Gambit was building the groups together for the gods and guards, Lantham was a harmony guard, obviously, and Red was a harmony guard. But Lantham, craziest character, was a little bit too young to be a father. And he kind of didn't want to be he wanted to go a different path, craziest the player. Red obviously and did not work out in terms of playing a fatherly character.
Yeah.
And then literally I messaged Gambit on Monday night after his first stream. Wednesday we had agreed on a character concept. Thursday, I was introduced to Samurai. We had a meeting on Friday and discussed whether or not we wanted to go with the whole family thing and change my concept around by Saturday. Sunday, everything was finalized, and then I was in the stream Monday. And it was a very quick turn of events. But Gambit originally suggested that I partner with a player, and I'm glad I did because I think it's created some really interesting roleplay. Samurai and I have met up in person. We don't live far from each other, and he's a really, really cool dude, and I'm really glad to have met him.
That's actually really cool. But as far as chaining your characters together, I've found that in the campaign, that's definitely made, it's made characters feel more, I don't want to say more real, but sort of more real, it's with say Nira and Roysowen, them being brother and sister. It really, you had this I don't want to say basket case, but sort of basket case or wallflower, whatever term you want to use, girl who was abused, and then you had the ignorant, not in a bad way, but just in he didn't know the whole situation, brother who's very charismatic and such, and it's a very, very they play off each other very well. And so to see stuff like that and you with Gabriel is honestly really, really cool and interesting. And I feel like it also opens a lot of avenues for a character.
Yeah, having a character bond is definitely interesting because it just allows you to definitely make your character feel more real, more alive, more bound to the story. And recently, just with Royce's death and seeing Nira's last campaign where she mentions her brother and finds out she's like, my brother's dead, or what are you talking about? That's a lie, whatever it was that she had interacted with the crone. It was all the more real. If it was just an NPC, I feel like players and viewers are just oh, who gives a fuck? It's an NPC. It's not even real. But in this case, a real player's character died, and now another real player has to deal with the the repercussions of that event.
Yeah, I will say making it a player character definitely makes it feel more impactful. As
Definitely.
as far as a NPC family, I feel like you can make them feel close to as real as NPC, but it's way harder.
Yeah, you kind of miss the mark when it comes to NPCs because unless you really build up the story, but with them, it's really difficult to convey that. And a lot of players, especially in Dungeons and Dragons, they approach NPCs as tools and just
Yeah.
meat bags where they can be murdered and slaughtered at will. But
Yes.
really, they
Right.
have they have a place and they have meaning and
Yeah, there's a lot of players that tend to come into a D&D game and think, oh, well, this person's just a quest giver, and then, you know, it turns out they have like a whole family and interesting stuff about them and cool little quirks and stuff. And I will say one thing that I really want to do, but am holding back on, is asking the name of like every NPC I see. Because I'm like, wait, what's that person's name? You know, because it's like, you know, the curiosity in the back of your head. But then it's like, I also know what it's like to be the DM and have every single NPC have a name. And it's just like, sure, you can have a list of names, but like, you know, certain ones are only going to be so fitting for, you know, some dock worker or something.
yeah, it puts a lot of work and stress on the DM. But
Did you say anything after but? Because you cut out if you did.
no.
Oh, okay. Well, if you wanna, or if you're good with it, we can move on to the character specific questions. Yeah, these are more specific to you and not just general. But first one is from Rip, and asks, what did Garruk feel when he realized that Gabriel gave up his soul for him?
I had a lot of time to think about like the headspace for Garruk after that. Like part of me as just a player was like angry that you know, everything that had happened and everything that occurred, but I had to kind of step away and kind of rationalize through the eyes of my character and what he is experiencing, what he's, you know, ready to express. And so initial gut reaction I think for Garruk was, you know, deep and sudden realization that his father, his adopted father, who he has often like kind of took for granted or scorned a little bit just because of their relationship early on in his life, was just not the greatest. And I think that he felt just immense guilt and regret for everything that occurred before that point, knowing that he might never see him again now. And I think that was probably, you know, the headspace for that.
Yeah, I'm sure that, you know, in such a complicated situation, so, you know, first having the orc people completely like wiped out is, to your knowledge, that very well could have been your people. Or was it confirmed that they were? Was it just speculation?
No, the orcs in the Navali tribe, to our knowledge, were not any relation to Garruk.
But yeah, I'm sure having them just completely wiped out and any chance of if they weren't, you know, it's more orcs and now they're all just gone. And then the next, the next session you had your, you know, only father figure just taken and turned into some angel creature.
Yeah, I think Garruk's still struggling with that a lot. But hopefully things will play out and we'll be able to actually see Gabriel return one day, maybe.
I do hope. I do hope that you guys end up beating the watery tart at some point. But yeah, let's go ahead and hop over to the next one. If your group would return to New Crescendo and see the orcs fighting the humans and the elves, what would your reaction likely be as Garruk?
I would hope, obviously metagaming a little bit. I would hope that Garruk would see that these were not his tribe, or not the orcs that he has come to know and understand, and realize that they are agents of darkness. And he would probably side with the humans and the elves. But my ideal situation is that Garruk is able to unite the orcs and any tribal humans left, and as well as the dwarves, and return to New Crescendo and wage war against the arbiters of darkness, and try and stop the spread of Venumbra and everything. So with any luck, he'll come back with his own army. He'll see these raging orcs and realize that they're not a part of his his ideologies, and side with the humans and the elves.
Do you think that would put anything in his mind as far as the whole thing between Red, where he still chose his people over the group, just as Red did?
No, I think that's kind of different situation, almost entirely, because Red's decision to side and go with his people was, obviously a big one and a difficult one, but I don't think that it has really any relation to Garruk seeing an army of shadow orcs fighting and killing innocent people. Because at the end of the day, I think Garruk is on the side of good, and trying to usher in a new society that doesn't involve elven domination and rule, and more of an equal society. I think he would just be more in the moment rather than reflective at that point. He'd kind of have that gut reaction of, okay, these guys look bad, I need to do what I have to do and save the people.
Gotcha. Oh, and by the way, that one was from Curling. But
okay, good question.
Agreed. But yeah,
I think about the fate of New Crescendo often, actually. So
yeah, same. And I kind of feel bad because I'm like the one that's kind of burning it to the ground, but not really.
Yeah, we'll see. We don't know yet.
Yeah, to be fair, they could kill us all next session that we're in. You never know. But let's go ahead and hop over to the next question. What are Garruk's long-term goals? Also from Curling.
I think they've definitely changed. I mean, I feel like his original long-term goals were related to, finding the truth about his people, and that's still like that's like a part of his entire identity as a character, is understanding his origins. So I think that is definitely number one. But I think long-term now, in terms of what he really desires and wants to achieve, is the end of elven subjugation over the humans, and I'd probably say, obviously defeating Venumbra and creating a new society for all beings, not just elves and humans and dwarves, but orcs and any other kind of maybe races we might not encounter yet, or fae folk that are waiting in the wilds for us to discover.
Yeah, some random what are they called? The hyena people?
Yeah, probably not. But
yeah. But one thing I was thinking about, does Garruk know of Venumbra?
Yeah. I mean, he's...
Oh yeah, the thing in the Yena temple. Yeah.
Yeah, we knew his name, and its name rather, and everything else about it, and we've been combating it this whole time, so...
Yeah, I was gonna say that I don't know why, but for some reason I always associate Venumbra with Volcrum before I do the Gods and Guards for some reason. Don't know why.
Yeah, it's definitely been. I mean, Venumbra's become his champion more or less, so
Yeah.
it makes sense.
But let's go ahead and hop over to the next question. This one's from Coors. Do you wish you had turned your soul over instead?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't plan anything with Gambit in terms of like what would happen if Garruk died or anything like that. But I think that from Garrick's perspective, he would 1,000% wish that he could have, offered his soul and allowed Gabriel to continue on his mission. Because I think, reflecting on what had happened, I think that Garruk thinks that Gabriel would be more useful in, the coming battle, and his place in society is a little bit more important than Garrick's. But I think that's just, wishful thinking, honestly. I think that the way that things happened were probably for the best. But I guess we'll really find that out as we continue on with the session.
One thing I was just thinking about, I don't figure that it would have went the same way, but if you had instead given over your soul, I wonder if you would have actually just died, or if you would have come back and just been, I don't know, like just really fucked up or something. I don't know. Oh.
Yeah, I thought about it a little bit. I think that after that session, Gambit and I would spend a long time discussing and seeing exactly what would happen and what we would do with Garruk should he have offered his soul instead of Gabriel's, just because obviously that was planned. And speaking to Samurai after the fact, he's known he's been an Aasimar this entire time and has built this entire identity. And it's pretty prevalent in the idea that his character's name is Gabriel, which is a biblical angel. And his next character's name is Michael, which is the archangel Michael, who is the champion of God and leads the armies of heaven against Satan and, destroys him in the final battle. So it's very telling what he had planned for his character, and he's put a lot of thought into it. So I think that one way or another, Gabriel was walking out of there without a soul.
Yeah. One thing that I was thinking about was, since Nura doesn't necessarily understand or fundamentally agree with the idea of, like, the gods and such, if because of that she might not really associate her being, or however, with her soul, and therefore might have just been like, sure, I don't even know what it is. I think that could have been interesting to see if that would have had like this immense difference in personality or something. That could have been fun.
Yeah, that would have been interesting if Nura had, like, somehow offered her soul. It would have been definitely interesting, because the dwarves don't believe in any kind of gods, really.
Yeah.
But maybe they believe in demons.
One thing that I thought was interesting is, an interesting thought that I had, rather, at least in my mind, is I played in a campaign at one point that had a sort of race that didn't have a soul. They were almost like dryads, sort of. They were still people. They were just of the earth. So, their soul was purely from like druidic power.
Okay, maybe like a nature spirit sort of thing.
Yeah, and granted, this would be a different thing, but I thought it would be interesting if dwarves were not necessarily didn't have a soul, but like, since they don't worship the gods, couldn't interact with that in that way. Therefore, she was like a void option.
Yeah, I've got some theories about the dwarves and their relationship with the deities, but I won't get into that now.
Yeah. But yeah, with that, let's hop over to the next one. What does Garruk think the veil is? Also from Kerling.
I don't think Garrick's ever thought about the veil in a day in his life. So, that's a short question.
Fair enough. And the Songless Sea, I'm sure there's like somebody's talked about it, but never really anything really.
I don't know that they would even know what that is either, unless, I'd have to ask Gambit what the connotations of that are in terms of education.
Yeah.
We talked about this today on stream about Garruck's wisdom and intelligence and his ability to know and understand things. Obviously it's tough because I have a unique understanding of the campaign and everything, so it's really difficult sometimes not to metagame and know things. But I don't think Garruck would know anything about the Veil to any degree, or the Songless Sea. I mean, anything he probably knows is just the path through, to Chronicle City via the ocean and New Crescendo and maybe the surrounding areas briefly, but nothing really that deep.
Yeah, I always, as far as like the difference between like intelligence and wisdom, I always thought of intelligence as like how smart you are, how well you can learn things, stuff like that, and wisdom is more of a thing that comes with like social scenarios or stuff where it's like your how strong your personality is per se, where granted some of that can be accounted towards charisma, but such as like knowing what's good for you to a certain extent, like Tella was also very low low wisdom, and granted his was even lower than yours, and he was in turn a very hot-headed person and would make very regrettable decisions because he would be mad. And so the
way that I've always understood it is that intelligence is knowing something, wisdom is understanding that something. So there's really that difference. That's how you kind of can differentiate between the two. You can know something. I've met people in my personal life who know lots of stuff, but they don't understand any of it. You can know how to fucking change a tire, but do you understand,
how to actually do it?
Well, do you understand what that means for your vehicle and, the impact and this, that, and the other? Like, everything has a
ripple effect.
Cause and reaction, basically. You have to know... You can know something, but you have to understand it also. There's two sides of the same coin, really.
Yeah. I definitely think, as far as how you've played Garruk, I don't necessarily think that you show low wisdom, but I definitely think that as far as like anger goes, you've definitely shown a little bit of lack of self-control, which I think is definitely interesting. Like, even in the one with the thing in Sinopera, you were like slowly walking towards the towards Elbow or whatever his name was.
Allegro. I think that I don't know if this is a question or relates to anything, but Garruk, I wanted to break the trope of the mindless barbarian, but he's still a fucking barbarian. He's still has orc blood, and there's certain things that I need to roll with. But overall, I think it's tough because I have Garruk with like a low wisdom score, because I imagine he's like he's definitely young. I mean, he's 16 in relation to orc years. That's like early 20s. But he shouldn't have a lot of isdom, or he shouldn't have a lot of learned wisdom. It should be mostly like, he doesn't have a lot of life experience. But for me as a player, I have a lot of wisdom and life experience, and I look at things very differently, I think, than some people. So it's hard for that it bleeds through quite a bit. But I think I've done a good job of differentiating him from, the classic barbarian.
I also think it's important to realize that, because this campaign is a great example of it, where you have like a classic trope like a monk, a ranger, a whatever class, and whatever race, and eventually you forget that they're that race or class or whatever, and you think of them less of that and more of like, this is this character, not, you know, some half-elven rogue, you know?
Yeah, it always starts out as, oh, I play a half-orc barbarian, but eventually it's like, I play Garruk, and people will know and understand that Garruk is one thing, but he's also so many others, and I think that's what the goal of any role player is to build a character independent of their stats and their titles and their mechanics, you know?
Yeah. I definitely think that of all the barbarians so far, you're probably one of the ones that definitely shows the most mental prowess, for sure.
Yeah, for now, until maybe something else comes along. We'll see, I guess.
To be fair, with the Orchestria people being like one lower than the Death and Shadows, and there being a possibility of PvP, I could definitely see another person coming into that group as well. And so, you never know. Or it could be another caster. But let's go ahead and hop over to the next one. Has Garruk noticed Nura's shiny weapon, and if so, what does he think about it? Also from Kerling.
I mean, I think Garruk has definitely noticed it. I just don't think that he understands enough about it to pay it really any mind. Obviously, since this last session where they discussed implanting the crystal into her weapon and the results in terms of damaging the shades and stuff, he's going to be more impressed by it. But at first, I don't think that he ever paid it any mind. It's just another tool to him. But maybe one day he'll steal it and have to kill something with it. So,
well, that actually
not necessarily steal it, but
yeah. That definitely brings up an interesting thought, though, of has Garruk noticed any of the possessions that are unique, such as Lantham's Sunstone or big rock of crystal that's red?
Could you ask that question again?
Do you think that Garruk has noticed, like, say, Lantham with the Sunstone, or his big gem?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Garruk is hestant to like pry into things he doesn't understand, and I think that was kind of made obvious when Lantham wanted to experiment with the Lifestone and try and rally the Navali to his side. And Garruk is a young, impressionable person who doesn't really understand the world that he's been forced to interact with. So all these things are new and foreign to him, and I think there's a lot of hesitation to delve into and kind of further open Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Most of that too is me as a player leaving those things up to Lantham. Like that's Crazy's journey to experience with his character. It's not for Garruk to be like, well, let's experiment with this and play with this and blah 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 and all this other stuff because of my personal interest in it. I think you got to give space to your party for them to discover their own things about themselves and their items and stuff.
I will say, starting out, I was definitely like that, where it's like, ooh, shiny, instead of like thinking about like whether or not like this item is like very specific to this person and likely would be mundane to somebody who doesn't know the full context of it. But I was definitely the person who's like, ooh, let me poke it, and that resulted in the death of multiple of my characters. But
shit happens.
Oh yeah, trust me, I had plenty of shit happen to some of them, and I always die in the weirdest ways. at one point I died to a possessed doll thing, floating head creature that shot laser beams out of its eyes and hit me and cooked me in my plate mail. So that happened. But yeah, that's D&D for you.
Druid. Yeah, sometimes run into a druid or a spirit that knows heat metal, and then you fucking die because you're wearing plate mail.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories about that, and that just sounds excruciating. But yeah, let's go ahead and hop over to the next one, which is with the most recent episodes. How does Garruk feel about the elves?
I think I kind of covered that actually in character last session. Garruk obviously holds distaste for what he's realized the elves have done to the humans, and especially after meeting the Navali and seeing what they've been able to achieve, where he previously had seen them more as savages more than anything. They created a society that includes, any race. It's all about strength and individualism. Whereas in the elven human society, elves do everything for humans, and humans just, basically do whatever they want as long as they don't challenge the authority of their subjugator.
Yeah.
So I think that Garruk's position on the elves has definitely become more hostile than ever before. But it's a hostility that is aimed at their society, not so much individual elves. He doesn't want to go out and commit genocide. He wants to break the status quo and eliminate, elven privilege and, all that sort of stuff.
He wants to fix the elves, not necessarily kill them.
Yeah, exactly.
And one thing that I always think about is, when referring to the elves, are you referring to just the high elves or elves as a whole? As in, like, wood elves as well?
I mean, I don't think Garruk knows enough about wood elves to discern between the two. I mean,
to make a judgment call.
An elf is an elf is an elf. So yeah, I think that, and not to mention, I mean, just societally, they are extremely closely aligned, and the wood elves have extremely hostile, isolationists. So it's that doesn't help anybody. We all are here to survive and fight.
I will say, seeing that the only wood elven character that I think has actually stayed in the campaign for any amount of time is Steve, and he's very forward-minded. He's more modern ethics type person, and I think that while that does make him a little bit alien, I think he's also in a very alien situation where he's dealing with a lot of, he's in the High Elven City dealing with a problem with orcs while also surrounded by humans, and he's used to sitting off in the forest. So, he's just very much out of his comfort zone, I imagine.
Yeah, I think, it's a shame that there weren't too many more wood elven, characters where they could create more of a political intrigue sort of campaign where they can explore some of that, because I think the wood elves are extremely interesting to me, and seeing a wood elf in the campaign still interacting with societies he's really unfamiliar with, I think is definitely interesting.
Yeah, but my point from before that I didn't quite get to because I'm smooth-brained is I like to imagine that a good portion, there's like a small portion of wood elves that are, similarly minded to Steve. And to be fair, the guy is I think 500 years old or something. So it makes sense that he's going to be a little bit more forward-minded than, the average person in the Stone Age. But
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, let's go ahead and hop over to the next one. Is there anything you regret leaving behind in New Crescendo? This is from Rip.
Red.
Yes.
I think that Garruk, this is definitely not, captured on screen in the stream, but I think that as Rip and I and others have discussed in like chat and in spoilers and everything about like, Garruk's relationship with, this half-breed, fellow half-breed, just flip side of the coin, he's a half-elf, is just extremely profound to him. And I think it really changed his perception of himself and his wants and his needs and the people around him. And that was further kind of deepened between Rip and I having private roleplay where we kind of flash back to certain events where we think that like Red and Garruk could interact. And so we were able to kind of develop more of a friendship over the course of the few days to a week that they were together. And I think that despite his initial gut reaction of, hating Red for making that decision that he did, I think that Garruk has spent a lot of time thinking about his friend and wanting to, save him from the elves and the society he knows he's trying to be a part of, whether he realizes how evil and tormented they are or not. So I think that, if anything, Garruk definitely regrets not being able to bring Red along on their journey.
If Garruk knew where they are now, what do you think his reaction would be?
I told you so, basically. He's surrounded by a bunch of elves who really don't care about anything other than preserving their society and stopping humans from advancing beyond, their control. And, my interaction, seeing how Red has kind of changed and become more subservient, especially to Celia and that whole, narrative, it just further, drives in the nail that Garruk was trying to show Red at the time, is that, he's a tool to the elves, and, he's not a person, and his kindness and stuff, it will never be rewarded. It's, he's not the kind of person that fits in with that society.
Yeah, definitely goes unappreciated. One small add-on that video had to a previous question about the orcs invading New Crescendo was in regards to that, if he were to know that some of the remaining Navali were involved in the invasion, would he have any differing opinion, or would it still be just like, these people are evil, they need to die?
Well, considering that I wouldn't even call them Navali. I don't think that they have the right to call themselves that after they butchered their own tribe and left it to be dismantled and destroyed while they went on blood quests to murder and rape and pillage and do whatever they were planning to do when they left the tribe after murdering its leaders. I think that, if he found out that there were remnants of the Navali doing something like that, he would seek out and destroy them, because obviously they were the ones who destabilized the entire tribe and led to the death of hundreds of people.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. However, video is a little salty. And
yeah, I'm not shy about expressing my opinions.
Yeah, I felt that, it's like, if you ask for my opinion, I'm gonna give it to you. But
yeah, if you want to know the truth, you got to be able to deal with that.
You got to be able to take it, yeah. But the next question is, would Garruk's vision of Venumbra change if he found out that there was, the way it is exactly phrased is, would Garruk's vision of Venumbra change if we found out that all orcs follow Venumbra? Would he end up following Venumbra himself?
I think that's definitely been something I thought about, especially when they were first revealed and the extending octave, and what that means for all orc society. Like if all orcs are subservient to Venumbra, how that would change him. And I think that at the end of the day, understanding where he comes from is important to him, but that doesn't mean he has to have loyalty to to his origins. Garruck's, like I said before, his greatest desire is to know about his past and to uncover the truth about his origins. But once that's completed, he doesn't have to have loyalty to his people. If he sees that they are serving something evil, I think that he would try and free them of that, if anything. But no, I don't think he would align himself with the orcs unless it was a way of like freeing them from Venumbra's influence.
If he found out that his birth parents were say specifically the orcish side was from the people who worship Venumbra, would that,
like the shadow orcs?
Yeah, would that? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, does Garruk want to know no matter whether or not he likes the answer, or is it more of a thing where it's like, you're just hoping for the best?
I think he wants to know regardless of what the answer will be. It's really his major decision, or his major drive is to, uncover the truth, regardless of what that truth might be. Just like Video Goth.
Yes. And speaking of Video Goth and Sire, other than Maelstrom, does Garruk have any particular opinion on any of the other gods?
I kind of touched on that too in last session, is how Garruk believes that, for the most part, out of his entire life, the gods were for the humans and the humans only, and that they did not answer or care about the plights of the half-breed. So he's always kind of rejected the gods and what they mean and what they stand for, but obviously you can't reject something that's just in your face constantly, proving you wrong at every corner.
Yeah.
So I think that he has definitely embraced Maelstrom and will continue to embrace Maelstrom. But I don't know that he has an opinion on any of the other gods. Personally, if I had to choose, I would say Storvo might be a more fitting god for Garruk.
Yeah.
As much as I love Maelstrom and Samurai and everything he's built, I think that Storvo and his power over storms and stuff like that is more fitting to Garruk's rage and his power. Though you can kind of equate that also to the power of enrage of the sea, but it's neither here nor there.
Oh, I think that even if Garruk were, assuming that Gabriel comes back, I don't think that Gabriel would hold it against him if he were to choose Storvo. Mainly just because I don't think that Gabriel is the type to be that petty, and generally would see that their goals are still aligned at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't think that Gabriel is a zealot by any. I mean, he is, but he's not a zealot
in that way.
Yeah, he's
not that hardcore.
His beliefs. He's zealot. He's a zealot in his beliefs, but not in who you worship. As long as you all agree and follow the same path, I think you could worship whoever, and that would be fine as long as your core values and your path are still the same.
Yeah. Well, the next question is from Curling, and he asks, what does Garruk think of magic?
Garruk definitely doesn't understand magic, and I think that he's not. I don't think he's really afraid of anything. I mean, he's afraid of concepts and ideas and stuff like that, but I don't think he's afraid of magic in that regard. But I think that he's nervous about its application, especially after what had happened in the Navali camp. But I don't think that he's averse to magic. I had thought about actually going with for my subclass as the Wild Magic Barbarian, which would be, just insane. And I thought of that as a way of like the gods trying to communicate through Garruk, that maybe he's special or different from others. But in the end, I went with the Storm Herald because it's badass.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very badass to watch you just go into battle and then a fucking whirlwind of water and shit just comes around you. That's honestly like out of all of like the aesthetics so far, I will say that is one of the ones that really stood out as like, that is awesome.
Yeah, I really like what Shire Cap has become with his beast stuff, and I think it's it's such a classic like subclass too. Is either like you have the Battle Rager, and then you have like the beast one, which I really like, and I've seen flavored much differently in other campaigns, but I think that going with Storm Herald was just it's very fitting to the times, and I think it makes Garruk stand out way more than he would have if I would have went with something like a Battle Rager or something to that effect.
I will say, with our current characters being both similar in look, at least, having such very like clashing not only aesthetics but also like worldviews and opinions and everything, it's very interesting to see somebody who, as far as could be related to you, and having them be this like possible opposition at some point. I think that's like really interesting.
Yeah, when a new character is introduced, I was really excited about the potential of what it meant for the orc lore, and what it would mean for like future ages. And I'm kind of brought back to I can't remember what series it is, but there's like a race of people that for the longest time were mind slaves of this great entity, and they were like used for war and all this other stuff, but they eventually free themselves and they join society, but everyone rejects them because they still think of them as the servants of this evil creature or lord or whatever. And I think that is kind of what we're setting in place with these shadow orcs, but I don't know that they are the majority. I think that they are a large part of the future of the orc society, but I don't know that they are the orc society. But I guess we will find out for certain in the next few sessions, especially when we meet the orcs.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's at least 1,000 of them, so I don't know what the total number of like orcs are. To be fair, I don't think anybody knows that.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out soon though.
Yeah, I'm
really excited for it.
As far as population numbers, I don't think much of anybody knows that. I think that'll definitely be a, like between ages campaign wrap up type question,
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the map, if we were to measure in terms of miles, just the vastness of everything between Chronicle City and the bottom of the world there, south of the Aporia Badlands, we have no idea how many races and creatures and tribes are hiding in this vastness, which is larger than the Lunaris Whistland, so we really don't have any idea.
Well, that, and with the possibility of there possibly being other continents and stuff such as that, that that's definitely that's definitely a thought. I do, well, assuming that is how it is, the Songless Sea being where the Dark Elves are from, assuming that's where they are, is honestly really cool to me, because it's like, they're almost like a banished race or something. I think that's like really cool.
Yeah, I don't know that they're from the Songless Sea. I think, if anything, I mean, I have my own opinions about where the Octave are at right now. But assuming that there is some kind of mirror world or something to that effect, and seeing the different races that exist there is definitely interesting to me, especially the Driders. I've always actually loved the concept of the half human, half spider ever since I first played Dark Souls and fighting Quaalig. So having Driders and as a canon race in this campaign is very interesting, and I just love what Gambit's been creating.
Yeah. It's definitely a unique experience, because in most other D&D games, the world is already created, and in this one, you don't know much except for the particular situation you end up in.
Breadcrumbs, man, breadcrumbs. At every corner, you're finding new breadcrumbs. And one day we're gonna fucking bust into the room and see Gambit eating a whole loaf of bread, and we're gonna find out exactly what the hell is going on.
Turns out he's gluten intolerant, but just has a really bad craving. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting that he mentioned that people who are going back might find little details that are only coming up now, and I find that to be very interesting. One thing that I was thinking about was the Stormbloods, because I remember they were mentioned in the first episode, but
oh yeah, the tribe, the human tribesmen, the Stormbloods.
Yeah, and I say because Royce's death was the first on-screen example of one, anyway.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. I actually missed that session and went back and rewatched, the last half hour, or I'm sorry, hour and a half. I can't really recall. I have shit memory, but I don't like what happened to his character, because it's always tough to see a PC die, but I like what it meant for the campaign and what it meant for this tribe that was mentioned in the very beginning of the campaign, and only has resurfaced since now.
I will say
everything's always deeper and deeper. Everything's a layer,
I will say, though, his character death was very unfortunate, and I think it could have been a better death as far as just if you had the ideal situation. But I think as far as a death, I think the duel was a really, really cool thing. And
I'm brought back to Mountain Blade Bannerlord, where you raid a bandit camp, and then you get the option of dueling the bandit leader in one-on-one combat and ending it there, or you risk fighting him and the rest of his men in broad combat and hope to God that you don't get fucking smashed.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of if you've ever seen Game of Thrones, Oberyn Martell versus the Mountain.
Oh yeah,
where it's just this very fanciful fighter who's very showy and trying to make a big event out of everything, and then you just have the guy who's actually trying to just fucking kill this dude.
Yeah, it definitely was an interesting battle. I think it was one of the better instances of the campaign in terms of a PC death. It was very poetic and had a lot of meaning, and he went out in style, I think.
Yeah, I will say that out of the whole campaign, I was very, very lucky to get the death that I did. With all that, I think as far as just overall character deaths, I will say there have been a couple that were you kind of stepped into that one. Mainly Sin and less of gore, but more of a thing where it's justice was served, because he did this, the same I go down and I slit his throat to Victor as Kraz did to him. I thought that was a very poetic, you got what you did to this person done to you.
Yeah, I have my own opinions about the big PvP. I think it was absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
people just lost their characters, and the way that I think wasn't that player eventually kicked out
Which one?
because he just immediately went and killed a character that was down and rolling death saves. Like he kind of knew.
Oh, you mean Gore?
No, who's the other guy?
Zankoth? Zankoth did get kicked out, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was that. I don't remember.
But he was just being an ass. But yeah, it has been a while. Yeah. Let's go ahead and skip over to the next round. How does Garruk view Mikhail's how does he view him based on the fact that he inhabits his father's body?
It's super unsettling for Garruk, and I'm trying to kind of push that narrative that he's extremely. I don't know if anyone's really caught on, but Garruk has seldomly interacted with Mikhail since he's taken over his father's body, and I think that's to a point. You know, I think Garruk has no interest in learning anything about this creature other than how the fuck can I get rid of you and get my father back.
Yeah.
And I think it's it'll definitely be interesting as we continue on with the story, because Mikhail's already shown a lack of awareness and a lack of empathy for the situation they're in and the goals that everybody has. So, you know, it's definitely interesting. I don't think Garruk appreciates his father's body being used by some, you know, tool of a god.
Yeah, I definitely think that as far as like Gabriel compared to Mikhail is, you know, Mikhail is a lot more cold as far as things go, and just like, you know, I was sent here to do a thing, I'm gonna do that thing and do my best to make this person feel more comfortable, but like I'm not gonna do that much, you know, like, because there's not much he can do, to be fair. You know.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting. I actually messaged Samurai like the night after Mikhail was announced. I was like, "Fuck you! You're like, you're just giving me so much trauma, you bastard." But you know, we're good sports about it, and I understand what he's going for. And Samurai is a masterful player.
Oh yeah.
Extremely, really good person, and I think he's just got a lot of interesting ideas that make for very, very good roleplay.
Honestly, I would love to see some questions from him, because he, you know, he, like, I've only talked with him a couple times, but every time I have, he's always had some interesting insight on something that I didn't think about, and it's very intriguing.
Very introspective kind of guy, very thoughtful person.
Yeah. But the next question is how would Garruk feel if he met his birth parents?
Oh man, I've thought about that and what it would mean to him, and I don't know that I can really reveal any of those thoughts because I want it to be more meaningful and on-screen reaction.
Gotcha.
But I have thought about it. I will say that I've thought about it, but I will not reveal his thoughts on that.
And should he find himself unable to find his birth parents, will he at some point eventually give up the search, or is this a thing that's probably going to, you know, continue on until the foreseeable future?
I think that if he can know his origins and at least know where he came from, who his parents may have been or who they were, not necessarily meeting them, and understanding, you know, how his story kind of came to be and how he wound up where he was and all that, I think that'll be satisfying. If he ever met his parents, that would just kind of be the icing on top of the cake, if you will.
Yeah. Something I was just thinking about, seeing that the only friends that we've seen that Garruk has is the party, before this, was he sort of like left only with the companionship of his father?
Yep. I think we discussed it before. Like once before on stream, Gambit had talked about what he believes the population of half-orcs would be in New Crescendo, and it's like, 1 in 10,000 or maybe less than that, or 1 in 50,000, where they're just so unique and rare in the city that they're very difficult to come by. And I mentioned in one of our earlier sessions, like probably maybe our third or fourth, when we were traveling from the Temple of Vienna and trying to avoid being spotted by anything, is that Garruk knew a half-orc who pulled a sledge for a certain business or whatever. And thinking back on that, I should have talked to Gambit more about like what that idea was, but I think that if he had any interactions with half-orcs in the city, it was a mutual respect and understanding of one another. But I think that it was, if they start hanging out together, like what the fuck are the humans going to do? Like they're going to get scared. They're going to want to lynch them and kill them and make sure that they aren't conspiring against them. So I think for the most part, Garruk, avoided contact with his people or anybody who looked like him, really.
Yeah. I was gonna say, even in just your first session, like they were already trying, like, well, come on, it was the half-orc, like there was already that assumption that you did this, we have a reason to kill the half-orc, let's kill the half-orc.
Yeah, exactly. The half-orc is always a good martyr for a crime. There are parallels between that and our real life society and that sort of thing, and I think that's what I kind of wanted to try and explore and convey, and hopefully not doing anybody discredit by doing that, but I think it's definitely an interesting narrative that is ignored too often in media, and I felt like this was a good spot and a good opportunity to explore some of that.
Yeah, I definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think that it's a very interesting perspective for sure. Somebody who's, like you said, like 1 in several thousand, if not more. Yeah, very much like the diamond in the rough, almost.
Yeah. I'm just glad that things have played out the way they have, and I was a little nervous that when I started the campaign that like we would just stay so long in New Crescendo, and we did to a point, but as soon as we got out and got to explore, I think is where I really got to develop my character more. Yeah. And kind of break away from some of that stuff, and pulling that thumb out from under Garruk has allowed him to see and change and develop, and change his views and opinions. Which I think that if we continued with like a city narrative, I don't think he probably would have been radicalized. And there was actually a point when Garruk had met with the Venumbran humans that he was like, wow, these guys make a lot of sense. We should just fucking slaughter the elves and, kill as many people as we can and just, seed violence, because this is what they all deserve for treating me like shit. Yeah. But that quickly changed.
And sort of like the whole like concept of, if you want to see me as a monster, fine, I'll become the monster you want me to be.
Exactly. That's
exactly. It is very interesting, the altercation between you guys and Alta, I do believe. That was similar in function to how Roycewen's death affected the Orchestra party, because right now, before they were, they had to stay in New Crescendo. Now they don't have that limitation anymore, and so they can run free if they want to. Granted, there is some level of responsibility they still hold. They still have to show up, but It's definitely something that's very interesting, and I think you guys leaving the city definitely made your perspective just that much more interesting.
Yeah.
Did you end up seeing Emery as a dark elf, or did you just see the ruse?
No, I saw the whole shebang.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was just Ariel or if it was you as well. But yeah. The next question, and I do believe we're coming up on the more non-serious questions. Yep. How short does Garruk like his man skirts to be? And this is from Rip.
I don't know. Honestly, Garrick's only ever worn clothes that he can find that fits him, so I don't think he has a sense of style.
Just like, let me just put on this bed sheet real quick. I always thought that was interesting whenever...
Yeah, more or less, really. I mean, we talked about it before, about like finding armor for Garruk would be like incredibly difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And I was looking at the armor options, and I don't know that I'll be able to find anything decent to negate, like to make up for my 15 AC, because unless something adds dex bonus, I won't be able to get past 15 unless I start boosting my con and dex later. But yeah, I don't really think about clothes for Garruk. I just he wears what he wears.
What armor do you have now, if I may ask?
Garrick's armorless. He's on armored defense.
Oh, got you. Yeah, it would be interesting if you ended up with the with a pair of those leaf gauntlets that I think it was Carl ended up with. Where
Oh yeah, they just got those new magic items.
Yeah, which I find to be very interesting, and I think is probably Gambit's way of giving them a little bit of an edge against us, but I also think that he might be doing something similar to us as well. So
he might be prepping them for their milestone.
That's also possible. It's like they always say, if the game is giving you health and power-ups, that means something bad's about to be around the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The next one is also from Rip, and she asks, who is your favorite half-elf?
Oh, man. I don't know. It's a really tough question.
I guess it's Carl.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with Carl. Carl's probably my favorite.
Yeah. Sorry, Rip, whenever you're watching this later. But
she knows who's my favorite.
But a lot of these questions are from Rip, I'm not gonna lie. The next one is...
Yeah, that's facts.
The next one is Ariana or Alta.
Oh gosh. Without being too horny on main, I'm gonna have to give it up to Alta.
Got you. Is that his Garruk or his neckbone? Or are they pretty in line?
No, I think Garruk's sexuality is a lot different from my own, and I don't know that Garruk even thought about his sexuality.
Anything like that? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a personal opinion. I'd probably pick Alta, but for Garruk, I don't know. I don't think he's down with the
elves.
Yeah, down with the elves like that.
Yeah. It's definitely would be awkward though if you ended up, even like just talking to Ariana in even like a vaguely like that way, because Red would just be like, no, please, no.
Yeah, no, that probably would never happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to be Red's stepdad.
That'd be so funny. You're not my real dad. Yeah. You'd end up being the Gabriel for Red. That's funny.
Yeah. That'd be weird.
I honestly don't know how you're gonna answer this next one. But it's has Garruk ever owned a teddy bear? Also from Red.
No, actually, but Garruk has, back at home, he did have a collection of carved toys he made for himself. Very primitive and, obviously, like, carved by a child, so...
Yeah.
And he did care about them at one point, but now they're just dust in the wind, really.
No, it's, it's like going back and looking at your old, like, your old toys from when you were, like, a little kid, and it's like, oh, look, there's this G.I. Joe I used to play with, More of a nostalgic thing than anything. Yeah. That's actually really cool, to be honest. I really like that. But the last question we have here before we go over to whatever time we have left, usually I spend on theories and shit, tinfoil hat theories. But the last question is also from Red. Does Garruk's rage double as a car wash?
No. Originally, I did not. I did not picture his rage to be anything like what Gambit had come up with. Not to say I don't like it; it's cool. But originally, like, what I wanted is that whenever Garruk raged, there was just like, a massive storm that just like swept in around them. Wind blowing and rain beating down on people and just lightning constantly crackling out of the sky and hitting people near Garruk. But the seawater effect is definitely cool. I like that it is, this raging whirlwind that kind of swallows him, and anyone caught up in it is in trouble, which I think is cool. It's more like a tide pool effect that I thought was cool. But I guess you could say he probably has nice skin because the salt water just kind of keeps his skin nice and fresh and clean.
Yeah. Here's a bonus question from video. Now that he can't turn off his whirlpool, is Garruk becoming afraid of swimming?
I don't think Garruk's afraid of swimming or ever will be, based on his father's profession and that experience. I think Garruk was probably like a toddler or an infant when he was rescued, so he's probably since been back to the ocean to swim and that sort of thing. But no, I don't think Garruk has a fear of swimming.
But yeah, that's all the questions I have prepared. Do you have any tinfoil hat theories you may want to share?
No, well, only this. I think that the extending octave is trapped inside of a crystal. I think that all of this magic and stuff like that, Venumbra, is a result of, the elves and the dwarves maybe like cool. I don't know exactly. I haven't really thought this out too much, but a part of me feels like they're either in the Underdark, there are a Gambit's version of the Underdark, or they're inside of a crystal, like a Twilight realm, like a pocket dimension where Venumbra is trapped to exist. And that's why we see the mirroring of the Sinopran Woods and the Fermata Forest, and we'll see maybe more mirroring in terms of exploration and stuff like that, and what they eventually come to. But I guess we'll see. I don't know. I think that they are probably in some sort of pocket dimension, though, because just based on the little bit of evidence.
One thing that video did toss in the comments that I had forgotten about was seeing that you've met the Navali on your way to Hell. How would Garruk act if he met Sire, who is now the last Navali?
Oh, that kind of goes back to my and Garrick's opinion of the Navali betrayers and how they are no longer Navali and have abandoned that title due to their betrayal of their people. So I think that if he did meet him, they definitely would have some choice words and probably some barbarian rage fighting going on, which would be cool. But
yeah, that'd be
I,
badass.
I'm pretty averse to PvP, so I don't really think it would be fun for me as a player to have to fight another player and potentially kill or maim them. So I hope that we can just, wave at each other from across the mountains and respect each other's choices and enjoy each other's, journeys.
I will say, though it does suck to lose a character, and it's very sometimes unsatisfying whenever your character death comes in a situation in which it is a mechanical aspect and less of a role play aspect. Yeah, narrative aspect. But I think seeing how the last PvP went, I think if he does do another one, it's likely going to be A, smaller scale, and B, likely, well, less chaotic, but also I imagine it'll be more roleplay based and a lot less of just roll for initiative, roll to hit, dead,
Yeah, I guess we might see that again, maybe soon even, but for the most part, I think that, Gambit, he's learned a lot from that PvP session, and I talked with him constantly about certain things, and I've definitely made my voice known, and I'm sure others have, about how they felt about the PvP. So I think he's learned, and he's not gonna let that sort of thing happen again, where it felt like it kind of got a little bit off the rails, especially with the wild magic and all that. But I think it'll be interesting if it happens again.
Yeah, I definitely think that that also was sort of like, sort of as gasoline on the fire, was the fact that certain particular members of a particular group were very much ready to turn that into a confrontation when it very well might not have been.
Yeah, it never had to be a fight, but it definitely turned into one.
Well, one thing that was interesting was, should that particular character not have been there, if instead it had been, just the remaining people there, Tanazal was attempting to pit Victor against us. And I think that would have been an amazing moment where it's like, you either choose your son's life or you fight the people that you've been traveling with for the past few days. And on top of that, break your oath of pacifism. So, it's unfortunate that it went the way it did, but I think that for how it went the best it could.
Yeah. I mean, less people died than I thought would, which is nice, but still the way that events occurred was a little out there. But
I also think that was definitely a moment where it was just like Gambit didn't know certain mechanics and didn't know how certain things worked, and I think should there be another one, it'll definitely be way more not put together, but
structured.
Yeah,
Gambit, he's admitted this is his first time experience with Dungeons & Dragons 5e, so relearning and experimenting with stuff is just a part of the process, and he's come a long way, especially since looking at session 1 and then looking at the most recent sessions, you really could not, there's almost no similarities between his style and he's just become so used to it. I really have to give a lot of credit to Gambit, because the way that I had discovered him was just very, by happenstance, and
Yeah.
it just it's changed. Like it's had a very profound impact on my life, man. Like I hang out with these people every week, and we talk, chat, and have fun. I made a friend, a real life friend out of some of these people, and
Yeah, which is really cool.
interacting with the community and sitting right here and meeting you and talking to you about this campaign and what it means to us and our characters. It's just a whole experience.
Yeah.
And, we really gotta take our hats off to Gambit and
Yeah.
show our appreciation.
Honestly, like at every moment I get the chance to, I shout him out as often as possible, because it's just like this man, like, and of course that doesn't necessarily do anything, but it's sort of the thought that counts, I guess. But I just cannot recommend I just cannot recommend him enough. And Video said our hats, he already took our pants.
Yeah, well, I think the pant was invented in what is it, fucking Sumeria at some point. So we're coming up on the Bronze Age where we can actually have pants. Which will be nice.
And I think either way, like leg wrappings were a thing, So, or even like high socks or something,
No, I don't think this. I don't even. I have to look that up. I only
that's
use
another
the
point.
So there are some parts of this Stone Age campaign where I'm like, this is not plausible. Like the T-Rex thing was. I was like, Gambit, what the fuck are you doing? Like, a mammoth would have been more appropriate for the Stone Age, but not a fucking T-Rex.
I definitely think it was very fun, though. And to be fair, it's not necessarily the Earth entirely, and certain things are going to be different compared to we have what's the difference between a T-Rex and a dragon or something,
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think it was fun, 100%. And also looking up, pants were invented in present-day Western China in the 10th and the 13th centuries BCE. So we've got some time. I wonder what about the socks.
Yeah. It's always been very interesting to me to go back and figure out when things were invented, and this campaign has been a big source of like looking at like when was this invented, because like there's a lot of stuff that I had no idea was invented as early as it was.
Yeah, I think I think the earliest idea of a computer is like much older than anyone could probably ever I believe, and I learned that recently. I can't remember the name of the device that was created, but it basically had the same function as a computer, and it was like an ancient device, and it's just like wow, that's just crazy.
Yeah. Well,
socks were invented in the 8th century BC in Greece. It looks like.
One thing I was thinking about was even like cutlery, like granted not out of metal, obviously, but like like plates and stuff. Like I'm assuming that to a certain extent you guys have more than just the method of rip and tear with your hands type thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know why I said you guys, like I'm not in the campaign or something.
But that's about all the time I have. I'm gonna go hang out with my wife now.
All right.
Appreciate the invitation to talk about my character and answer questions. It was fun. It was definitely interesting. I enjoyed the whole thing, so to speak.
I'm glad that I got to fit this in when I did.
I appreciate your flexibility and everything. I'm sorry we got confused about the time zones.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. It happens, but what can you do?
Yeah, it's no big deal. Shout out to Gideon for the overlay.
Yes. Yes.
I like Garruk. He looks pretty good.
Yes, please. Anybody who is watching this who doesn't already know, please, if like, give Gideon as Gideon Lord on Twitch. Give him as much praise as you can. Gideon_Lord, I do believe, is his Twitch. But yeah. For now, I guess that is.
Stealing all of his art pads, just like Minnie steals the minis from me.
Yeah, I guess that is au revoir, my friends.
Yeah, thanks again, man. Have a good one, alright?
Alright, you too.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.